For over 3 decades, the locals living near Lake Tanganyika have whispered about a monster that defies nature. Unlike his agile counterparts, this living relic of the prehistoric world is reportedly blamed for over 300 human deaths. He carries multiple bullet scars on his back, yet a localized bounty on his head went unclaimed for years. In 2004, a team of world-class scientists weaponized a 3-ton steel cage to trap him. Despite the massive operation, Gustave escaped and has since vanished into folklore. Yet a terrifying question remains. How did one monster terrorize an entire nation, survive every attempt to end its life, and completely disappear? This is Gustave's story. In the heart of Central Africa lies a nation defined by its pivotal river basins and vast freshwater lakes. Burundi is a landlocked, equatorial nation where the Congo and Nile basins converge among towering peaks, lush plateaus, and deep rift valleys. Along its western frontier lies one of the world's oldest and longest freshwater lakes, Lake Tanganyika. The Rusizi River flows 116 kilometers through Central Africa, forming a natural border among Rwanda, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At its southern terminus, the river splinters into a vast, shallow delta before emptying into Lake Tanganyika. This specific ecosystem is home to a dense population of Nile crocodiles. Under normal conditions, these reptiles are perfectly integrated apex predators. The warmth of the lake, the abundant prey, and the lack of direct competition make it a perfect hunting ground for these formidable reptiles. The young and mid-sized adults rely on agility. They patrol the shallows, feeding primarily on fish, birds, and small mammals that approach the water's edge to drink. But the laws of biology dictate that as a crocodile grows, its relationship with its environment must fundamentally change. By the late 1980s, a reign of terror began when reports of attacks on villagers along the shores of Lake Tanganyika and the Rusizi River in Burundi became increasingly common. Many of these attacks were attributed to a giant Nile crocodile, known locally as Gustave. Along the northern shores of Lake Tanganyika, thousands of humans depend on the water for daily survival. Fishing, washing clothes, and bathing brought local villagers directly into Gustave's hunting grounds. To a 2,000-pound predator stripped of his agility, humans were not just a choice. They were the most accessible food source in the river. Gustave is a Nile crocodile, the second largest species of crocodilians after the saltwater crocodile. Even though Gustave has never been officially captured or weighed, scientists estimate his length to exceed 6 meters and his weight to be over 1 ton. In Africa's rivers, hippos are the undisputed rulers. They routinely bully, bite, and even kill normal Nile crocodiles. But Gustave inverted the laws of nature. His immense size turned the hippo's aggressive dominance into defensive alertness. To protect their calves, the pod would pack into a dense wall of flesh. The adult hippopotamus observes Gustave, not as a nuisance, but as a lethal, active threat. But Gustave does not become history's most notorious man-eater by biology alone. In 1993, a civil war erupted in Burundi between rival ethnic factions, triggering a dark decade of conflict that would claim approximately 300,000 human lives. Human bodies occasionally drifted down the current during the bloody years of the Burundian Civil War, washing up along the riverbanks and the delta marshes. For a massive predator weighing nearly 1 ton, these tragic casualties provided an easy source of carrion. Some researchers have suggested that the conflict may have contributed to Gustave's association with humans as a food source, conditioning him to view humans as accessible, vulnerable prey. Local legends claimed that Gustave was possessed by an evil spirit, fueled by pure malice. This folklore was driven by a terrifying biological anomaly. Unlike normal crocodiles that kill strictly to eat, Gustave often struck humans, dragged them under, and left their bodies untouched on the riverbed. A French herpetologist named Patrice Faye first arrived in Burundi in 1978. He had spent years studying reptiles, but nothing prepared him for the scale of Gustave. In 1998, local commercial fishermen, who freedived in Lake Tanganyika to catch rare aquarium fish, approached Faye in dismay to report that a massive crocodile had recently taken one of their fellow diving colleagues. The fishermen explained that this was not a random animal. It was an extraordinarily large crocodile that kept appearing, vanishing for a few years, and then returning to the same areas to kill again. This event prompted Faye to take out a formal hunting and tracking license. He began traveling up and down the shores of the lake and the Rusizi River, carefully documenting attack locations, interviewing eyewitnesses, and logging dates, which officially launched his decade-long obsession with the reptile. When people began disappearing along Lake Tanganyika during the 1990s, authorities initially blamed tribal warfare, rebel groups, or a serial killer. After 2 solid years of investigation, the bite patterns, dragging paths, and eyewitness descriptions pointed to a single, gigantic Nile crocodile. He staked out the right location and caught his first glimpse of the massive, bullet-scarred titan gliding through the water. In 1998, Patrice Faye caught his first clear glimpse of Gustave's immense size. He initially attempted to shoot him. However, upon getting a clear look at the reptile, he was so struck by its massive, prehistoric size, but he recognized the crocodile as one of the very last prehistoric marvels left on Earth, and felt it would be a tragedy to destroy it. Faye abandoned his rifle, deciding to protect the beast and dedicate himself to tracking, studying, and learning from it. Patrice Faye formally named the legendary Nile crocodile Gustave in 2001. By 2004, the legend of Gustave had drawn the attention of scientists and filmmakers alike. Faye partnered with the National Geographic film crew to launch one of the most ambitious crocodile capture operations in modern history. The objective was radical: capture the giant crocodile alive, relocate him to a secure enclosure, and save both the local villagers and a remarkable reptile from certain destruction. To trap a prehistoric monster, the team had to build a monster of their own. They engineered a colossal steel cage, measuring nearly 30 feet long and weighing a staggering 1 ton. It was a mobile fortress, lined with heavy mesh and rigged with spring-loaded pressure plates designed to snap shut the microsecond a giant crossed the threshold. Deploying the trap was a logistical nightmare. Moving a ton of steel into the murky, unstable mud of the Rusizi River delta required raw muscle and immense luck. The team anchored the cage securely to the riverbed, wired it with hidden, night vision underwater cameras, and retreated to the banks. The trap was set. For days, the expedition was an agonizing game of patience. The team loaded the cage with a live goat as bait, hoping the distress calls would draw Gustave from the deep. On the first few nights, the underwater cameras captured smaller, 10-foot Nile crocodiles swimming up to the bars, inspecting the trap and swimming away. But the master of the delta was nowhere to be seen. When Patrice Faye and his crew returned the next morning, they found a chaotic scene. The heavy steel cage had been dragged halfway into the deep water and was found partially submerged. The spring-loaded trapdoors had been triggered, but the goat was completely gone. Patrice believes that the intense storm caused the river to flash flood and rise rapidly. The powerful currents dragged the heavy cage down the muddy bank, causing the mechanisms to fail and allowing the goat to be washed away or drown. When the National Geographic expedition team packed up their cameras and left Burundi, they left behind a population still paralyzed by fear. The locals near Lake Tanganyika were left to wonder when Gustave would strike again. But the truth is, crocodiles never kill for fun. Like all cold-blooded reptiles, crocodiles have an incredibly slow metabolism and have very low daily food requirements. A Nile crocodile of Gustave's massive size can survive for several months on a single, substantial meal to sustain its hunger. Biologists believe many of Gustave's attacks were instinctual, defensive strikes. He would neutralize the human intruder with a crushing bite, drown them, and abandon the carcass, simply because he wasn't hungry. For a one-ton bull Nile crocodile, his territory is his kingdom. Anyone entering the water, whether washing clothes, fishing, or bathing, is viewed as a direct territorial threat. While local legends and early reports often claim the massive reptile killed between 200 and 300 people, Patrice Faye estimates Gustave might have killed far fewer than commonly believed. Faye spent 11 consecutive years tracking the reptile's movements across the Rusizi River, documenting and verifying attacks on the ground and tracing them back to Gustave's known hunting areas. Based on his research, he concluded that the higher figures were heavily embellished and that the true number of attacks was likely closer to 60. A Nile crocodile typically lives between 60 and 70 years in the wild. Gustave would today be in his 80s, a biological threshold where time finally catches up to even the largest crocodilians. Although crocodiles continue growing throughout much of their lives, their energy demands eventually become so great that age, injury, and declining hunting success begin to take their toll. The last widely reported sighting of Gustave occurred in June 2015, when a local resident claimed to have seen him dragging an adult buffalo carcass into the Rusizi River. In 2019, rumors circulated that the giant crocodile had finally been killed, but due to a lack of photographic evidence and physical remains, the report went unverified. Because no carcass has ever been officially documented, no hunter has ever claimed his bounty, and no skeleton has ever washed ashore, science cannot definitively pronounce him dead. Whether Gustave still lurks beneath the murky currents of the Rusizi River, or whether he has long since vanished into the depths of history, may never be known. Yet, regardless of his fate, Gustave achieved something few animals ever do. He transformed from a living predator into an immortal legend, an evolutionary marvel that defied the animal kingdom. This is the story of Gustave.